everybody. Today is the 10th of May, 2017. And let's start the lecture on the 9th psychological economic crisis happening in China. The title of my description is that global crisis caused by Wall Street financial tsunami and China's counter-cycle adjustments. And let's first give you a story. You can look at this one. I added this very important event to the so-called the data that is given by the foreign scholars. When they talk about the global crisis in the year of 2008 and 2009, impact very negatively by the Wall Street financial crisis. They talk the unemployment. So the most serious unemployment happened in developed economics in EU, means that including of Canada, United States, and the European area, the 5 million and more unemployed people, that is the more serious problem. And then they gave the different. Now the East Asia, less than the North America and Europe. But indeed, they haven't got the information about the real data of the unemployment in China. In the beginning of 2009, there are 25 million, many migrant workers, and 25 million workers laid off in coastal China, but not calculated in the status book. So my story that started from where they gone, where they are going to. I mean, when you have the crisis, to make them lay off, they are out of job, and then 25 million must be the biggest, or even bigger than the total amount of unemployment in other countries in the world. Certainly that is not so big, it's smaller, because last lecture I gave my explanation about the late 1990s, the eighth psychological crisis happening in China. I said there are almost 45 million SOE, state-owned enterprises workers. I mean the workers originally employed by the state-owned enterprises. They're out of job, but not calculated as unemployment worker, unemployment labor. It's because they have another title, that's waiting job or waiting career or the trainees and whatever, but never calculated into the statistics book. So most of the foreign scholars cannot even have such kind of information. In the new one, in the 9th economic psychological crisis, the same. The people just have the 4 million of the whole East Asia. Only one country China have a 25 million. So, and let me try to short my story. That at that time, just because Chinese governments initiate rural reconstruction movements, that is indeed is a large amount of the investments invested into the infrastructure construction in countryside. I mean the total amount, I mean for this time, is just the 11th 5-year plan. Just for this 5-year plan, China invested into the rural infrastructure construction for the trillion. A trillion Chinese yuan is almost, how to say that, it's almost $500 billion dollars or something. But anyway, it's big money. So you know that a trillion invest into the infrastructure construction in countryside can absorb maybe 20 million, maybe less than 20 million labor to have a cash job. So it means that they at least lay off migrant laborers from coastal China flow back to the inland to join the rural infrastructure construction. And then that means the Chinese governments adopt counter-cyclical crises, the measures, the countermeasures, the policy to against such kind of global crisis. And then this time, they have a very positive outcome. So let's go down to the background analysis. When this time, the Wall Street have such kind of financial crisis, that means that the crisis did happen in the core of the capitalism, especially when we talk about the financial capitalist era. Originally, these are financial capitalist crises not taking place in the core. In 1980s and 1990s, these crises happened in other countries, other areas, but this time it happened in the center of the financial capitalism. The financial capitalism center is Wall Street. That is the worldwide financial capital center is Wall Street. And then very soon, from 2009 to 2010 to 2011, these are the crisis from the center spread to other Western countries. And then to make the whole of these countries around the Mediterranean Sea as a kind of cyclical crisis ring. It's a crisis ring. As a cycle around the Mediterranean Sea. And not only the North Africa, the West Asia, but also the South Europe. Almost all the country around this sea became very severe crisis. In the South European countries, they can name such kind of crisis as the budget crisis. So it's just a partially or structural problem. But in North Africa and West Asia, in these developing countries, it's renamed as a kind of political crisis or social conflicts or whatever. It's a comprehensive crisis. Means that whole of these economic and the social and the political, all of these different sectors all falling into the trap of the crisis. So different name, but indeed, when we summarize this time, the crisis, we can find that the word transformation and comparison, the word have a very big change because China is the biggest population country and also the biggest industrialized country, bring the big overproduction, overcapacity of industries, merge into the globalization. When the year 2001, at that time I was in Johns Hopkins, and once a time I have a lecture in Johns Hopkins University. I asked the participants, I said, okay, if China joined WTO, if China merged into the globalization, means what? Means that China bring its big industrial surplus capacity, joined the global overproduction. I mean, originally the global capitalism has been several times falling into the trap of overproduction. Now it's oversupply of the financial capacity. Now you absorb this big China inside of the globalization. At that time, it's a Clinton government. Its policy is trying to push China into the globalization. and then to change China. Okay, I said, but you can change. You may think about that. It's worsen the situation or better. When they have a second to think, they answer me that must be worsened. Sure. The capitalist world, they have such kind of post-Cold War ideology. They do a lot of policies caused by their post-Cold War ideology. They never think that China is a so big, capitalist, industrialized country. And under the same regulation of the capitalist economic regulation. So when China joined WTO means that China bring a big surplus to join the globalization and then worsen the global situation, economic situation. Surely that will make the crisis more soon than before. So that is one thing. And then that is because of most of these Western countries has transferred out their industries since 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. These are 3 decades, caused by the overproduction after the Second World War happened in 1970s, and then they got to transfer out their big surplus capacity of the industries to other developing countries. And then they upgrade their economy into financial sector. So they can name this one as a financial era. But it also means that they are facing the contradiction that's short of the commercial products and excess of the financial capital. And when China have a large number of the surplus of the commercial goods production, it just gave benefits to Western countries. At that time, also China still be in the period of shortage of the financial capital. So these oversupplied financial capital in Western country flow into China. So it's just an exchange, very positive. So strategic positive exchange between West countries in China. So the first decades of the 21st century, it seems it's benefits both. That's the mutual benefits. It's a win-win game in that time. But very soon, when China have such kind of very special money control system, any sense of the foreign capital flow in China, no matter that it's a foreign trade surplus or it's a capital account surplus, current account surplus or capital account surplus, all need to against by the Chinese local money. So how much foreign capital flow into China? The same amount of the Chinese local financial local currency will be issued. So means that against foreign capital flow in, there must be fast increased the local financial capital. I mean the local liquidity, local currency will be enlarged more faster. I mean the more foreign money flow in, the more local money printed out. It means that just 10 years later or 15 years later, China became a very big local currency country. And when that time, also Western countries, according to their regulation, according to their post-Cold War ideology, they push China to open the money markets, to open the financial capital markets. It means that you will play the game again. You will have the lesson again. When the first decades in the 21st century, you make this a big industrial surplus into the globalization. Now you want to make another one that is a big financial surplus merge into the global financial capital competition. And then what will happen? Let's see. Now we just first see what happened when China bring its a large amount of the industrial capacity join the globalization. And then we can see that what happened. Okay, up to now, fortunately or unfortunately, China still closed door of the financial capital market, not free convertible. Chinese government still control the local money for the local investment and also for local debt markets. So it means that the financial game now played with by the Chinese central governments just inside of China, not make this a big, how to say that, this big money flood or big financial flood, flow, if open the door and then flow to the world. That will be very interesting phenomena happen. Up to now, I said fortunately and unfortunately, it haven't happened. It hasn't happened. Let's wait. So when we see that the first decades passed and then second decades of the 21st century coming to us, we found that the first decades they can have a mutual benefits, and then the second decades turn to the maybe lose-lose game. But anyway, the strategic relation in the first decades it's much better, and they all think that they have benefits. But the second decades, no, they have to encounter to have a contradiction, and so such kind of problems turn into the strategic policies, and then you can see that this world will have a lot of new contradictions. And after this economic crisis, 2008, 2009, and 2010, it's a 3 years global crisis. The world have a new structure, means that China became first the biggest industrial country, second the biggest financial capital country. Originally, United States is the biggest financial capital country, but now the financial capital, the total amount, calculated into dollar, China up than United States. So it means that China gained the top position, but United States still be the strongest financial capital country in their power. I hope you can think about that. Even you have a big number, but this number is not strong, it's soft. What is the hard power? The hard power not just according to how much number you have, because financial capital is a number. It's not real assets. It's not physical properties. Financial capital is a kind of intangible assets. You cannot see. What you can see? Military power, political power. So which one, which one have big number? Not important. Also not means that you are strong. So the strong means that the strong political power and the military power, that is United States. So once a time, or many times, I try to make you understand what is my key arguments. The financial capital only empowered by political power. Let me just stop here for several seconds. You think about this arguments. So I said after this crisis, even China became the big number country, a top one, but just in number. So we can see that industrial capacity, China is number one. But financial capacity, even you have a big number, but you're not a strong country. The strongest country still be United States. So when China have such kind of position, China trying to talk about this new structure to say that we need to build up the new style big countries relationship. 新型大国关系. The few Western countries recognize or acknowledge China have the number, the top one country with the financial capital number. Financial capital is a kind of concept, not performed, not implemented by the number, but implemented or practiced by the power. So China is not so powerful country in the world. So that is the very complicated situation nowadays the Irish people need to understand. And then we will give you the explanation about the different measures when China and United States both facing the challenge of the crisis. Because you may have such kind of information that the year 2007, almost at the same time, China, United States all have the crisis. The crisis in the United States is that the bad loan of the mortgage house is turned to the financial turmoils. But in China, in 2007, the stock markets have a big disaster. And several days, there are almost 20 trillion. It's equal $3 trillion vanished, steam out. That is a big loss. And then when United States have the Wall Street financial crisis, it's very soon to impact the whole of the world, including of China. So after 27th, $3 trillion vanished by stock markets downgrade, fallen down. That is a very fast fall down. And then there's even more worse, that's bad impact from Wall Street financial crisis impact China. So that's China and the United States both adopt similar measures. United States announced that $4 trillion for saving the market, for rescue the economy. Same in China, the government announced 4 trillion Chinese yuan. It's almost 1/6 or 1/7 as American money for rescue the economy. And then what will happen after such kind of similar crisis and similar measures? Few people carried out the studies to compare the two countries' similar crisis, similar measures, and then different outcome. Here I'm trying to give the analysis. In China, even they have a big loss, and then they got to close down 60,000 enterprises in coastal China, because that the global crisis means that the overseas demand large decreased, and then coastal China is mainly for exports. So these coastal China's factories closed down or bankrupted, and then 25 million workers laid off. It's a big crisis happened, but it's happened in coastal China, not in the whole China, because at that time China is just try to accelerate the rural construction by the government's investments. That is just that is counter-cyclical crisis measure. So means that coastal crisis saved not by coastal area, but by inland construction, especially by rural construction. And then rural construction absorb these layoff workers, come back to their inland provinces. So very soon they solve the problem. But one thing is also important. I need to tell you, it's because large investments invested into rural China, mainly for the road construction, the electricity network construction, the pipe waters, and the telephone and the communications, and whatever, all infrastructure construction, also including of these to terror the land and whatever. So it means that almost all of this countryside, even in the mountain areas, much improved their infrastructure construction. Their infrastructure construction improved means that they can more easy to enjoy these modern commercial goods, like automobile, color TV, washing machine, and refrigerators. So when these coastal manufacturing cannot export these commercial goods, and then Chinese governments gave a very special policy to announce to all the rural people, you are the consumer. If you reject it as a rural household's registration, you can have a 13% discount to buy any commercial goods that cannot export in the coastal China. It means that to enlarge the local demand, to replace the decrease of foreign demand. Originally, Chinese central governments gave 13%, not discount, gave 13%, how to say that, 13% of the short taxation, means that low taxation, 13% low tax for all of these factories if you export, means that Chinese government subsidize the foreign consumer, or subsidize this company in other countries. Now they subsidize the local people, especially the rural people. And then they also tell these local consumers, this policy benefits you, but the ended will be ended at the 31st December of 2010. Just to give you this policy for 1.5 years. Immediately steam up, not stirred up, but make up a lot of local buyers to buy the automobile and buy the color TV and whatever. So just a quarter the GDP decreased, and then the second quarter is increased. So that is V, very typical V. 1 quarter downgrade, and then second quarter upgrade. So that is Chinese measures to deal with the global crisis, and then to maintain the high growth, high GDP growth, even in 2008 and 2009. So if you calculate these 5 years, because Chinese calculate this 5-year plan. So these 5 years, the GDP growth maintained 9%. It's the highest in the world. So that is why I think that we need to compare when they have the similar problem of the crisis, and also have the similar measures. And American the measures, the total amount, much bigger, 6 times at least, bigger than the Chinese central government's money for secure the economy. So finally, you can find a different outcome. China can stabilize their economy, and then also gain the high increment of the GDP. And the United States they transfer out a large number, more than 60% of their money, secure the economy, flow to the future markets and the circulation markets to strengthen these financial investments, and then to have a more how to say that, more unstable change in these financial sectors, and also to make very big change in the future markets, especially the grain and the raw materials and the oil. If you read the data of the oil since the 2008, 2009, when American adopt the policy in name of QE and quantitative easing as a securing the economic crisis, the oil price goes very high. And then to make these developing countries import oil, import raw materials, or import grain, all have the trouble of import inflation. I mean, the inflation is not created by themselves, created by Wall Street. And then when American governments adopted the policy to secure the Wall Street take these investments, investors take large number of money and then invest into the future markets to make future markets price goes much high, and that means turn this inflation to other countries. It's very typical phenomena to show that this top leader country, this big power country, they have or does have the power to transfer out their cost, their institutional cost to others. So that is different. So when we have such kind of comparison, we can know that these are why that American, they control the big power, but they cannot change. They cannot make change. Yes, the politician announced we can make change. Also that we believe they want to change this bubble economy back to the physical economy. That is the right way. But when they're facing the crisis, they got to follow this so-called market system, follow this because the main factor of the American economy, if you calculate the GDP, you may know that the main factor is the financial sector. The financial and the service is 87% of total GDP in the United States. So if you are the leader, you are the politician in the United States, when you have a crisis, which one you save? Certainly 87 is the biggest. And the real production, just less than 13%. Agriculture is less than 1.7%. And the industries, 11% or something. Very little. So if you got to do something, certainly you need to save. There's a big one, 87. That is a structural, economic structure made the policies turn to give the big interest, give the big benefits to the big one. This big one is financial sector. So that is why American cannot change. But in that time, the same time, it's physical production in China still be, it's more than 50. The industry is 46%, and the agriculture is 11%. So that's, you think about the whole of this, the physical production means that agriculture plus the industries still be more than 50. So that's certainly Chinese trying to save the big one. The big one is a physical economy, not the service. So the service at that time is 47 something. So it means 53 is It's a real production. It's a real. It's a physical production. So that's difference. So it's a lot of people criticize. I said it's if you cannot change the American GDP structure, whatever you criticize, useless. So you need to wait the American aware what they should do, and then if they try to do something, and maybe you can give some help. But up to now, it's the more modernized economy, the more troubled by modernization. So when we give this the first page description, we may have these data to show that what happened in the United States in the year 2007, 2008. It's because of the private debts. The private debts mainly from the housing, so the leverage became much high, and then leading up to the crisis. This is the data and the pictures. And then also the budget trouble. Americans have paid too much for the military expense and also the social expense and the government expense. So they have a big deficit. The deficits at that time in the crisis became large. And then if they cannot enable this one, the first they said this one is a tech stock bubble, and this one is that the U.S. housing bubble. It's because of bubble break, and then they have a crisis. They are very clear to name these are two bubble, these are two crises. But this time, they cannot. We will give this analysis in the 10th secular crisis analysis, not this time. But I'm trying to give it a title. This one is comprehensive. Not only tech or the housing or the financial. It's a comprehensive bubble. Everything is bubble now. Okay, so it's a very tough job for the new president. And when we see that this data also shows that 2007, 2009, 2008, 2009, that is a recession. These are 3 years. It's a very severe of the crisis. Here, these data also shows that very difficult time in United States. So when we see that it's only one competitive advantage, is American still be the world world trade that is the hardest currency still be the American dollar. Even it's a downgrade. I mean the value of dollar decreased, but American dollar, U.S. dollar still be the global reserve currency. And so every country want to buy the commercial goods or buy raw materials, buy oil, whatever, you need to pay U.S. dollars. So you need to take dollars. So that is why American can be the so-called strongest financial capital country. That is the reason. And then when the American governments adopt a measure to secure Wall Street only can contain 300,000 as have a job. I mean the job is smaller in Wall Street. A large number of people, they cannot benefit from the government's policy, so they become poor. So when the crisis happened in the year 2008, the people have hunger increased from 9% to 19%. And so that is why they joined the Occupy movements, trying to occupy Wall Street. So that is these are the sheets written by these participants. They wrote down why they joined the Occupy movements. It's because they have children, they're out of job, they also wandering in the street. So jobless, securityless, and many people are just hopeless. So this is because of the government's policy only secure the Wall Street, the big financial capital group. So large number of the common people, they have no hope, so they go to the street. That is why from the year 2008, many Western countries, in name of the social welfare country, but people lost too much. And so that is uneven and make the street conflicts increased. And here is to show the American QE policy. And from the 2008 and 2009, to make American GDP also as a V, decreased and increased, also as a typical V. This V means financial capital increment. It's because large number of the liquidity flow into the speculation markets, and then means that these institutional investors, they have the room to keep their financial growth again, grow up again. So that is why they can also have a V GDP. But most of them flow into the raw materials and oil markets, and then to change the future market's price. That is I just gave the explanation in the first page. And then the American crisis in Wall Street turned to the big debt crisis in Europe. Most of these European countries have no legal position because Maastricht Treaty gave the very very strict bottom line that the budget deficit must not be increased to 3% of the total GDP. But most of them, you can look at these countries, all break the bottom line, except Finland and Luxembourg. So Germany, Austria, Malta, Italy, Dutch, Slovenia, Belgium, Cyprus, and Slovak, France, Portuguese, Spain, Greece, Ireland. So the European in average is at 6.3. Just because of the crisis happened in the world, so almost all of these EU countries break the bottom line to be illegal. So to make EU become a kind of illegal international organization is because of the deficit. So the debt crisis happened in the whole of the West countries. And then they got to reduce the government's investments for secure the crisis. But the less government investments, the more severe of the economic crisis. So Europeans fall into the trap. And here is also shows that from December 2008 until the January 2012, one by another, they have such kind of very big number of the government's deficit. So the debt crisis became more and more severe in the Western countries. So that's these countries all decreased their demand. So the overseas, the global demand, the overseas demand for all of these industrial countries is a bad impact. And also because of inflation. So these real production country, physical production countries, all facing the double challenge. One is that they got to import the inflation. Second, that they cannot export. So that is why even originally they are trying to give a new title of this emerging country, like China, India, and Brazil, and so on and so. They said there is a kind of BRICS. But caused by such kind of double problems. Almost all the BRICS, except China, decreased or even fallen into the crisis. So here, I said, the regional conflicts caused by the cost transferring. The Western countries, the only one comparative advantage in Western countries is that they can transfer out their institutional cost to developing countries. So here is Egypt, here is China. There are so many local conflicts caused by the global crisis. And I said a double problem. One that is they got to input inflation. They got to input, like Egypt, input the wheat and wheat powder. And more than 50% of the Egyptian wheat consumption rely on the foreign market, the international market. So when the wheat price increased 100%, doubled, means that the poor people in Egypt need to pay double price to buy the how to say this, naan or some steamed bread or bread, or anyway, that's they buy the bread. But this one, the price increased much high. So these are poor people cannot tolerate such kind of food inflation. So they go to the street or go to the square. So any foreign aid can give them or give their children, their wife, their old people, give them bread and ask them to go to the square. No doubt they will go. A similar situation in any North African country, because all the North African countries, the food mainly rely on the import wheat. That is caused by the colonization. Few people can do the analysis about these difficulties. What is the root reason of the difficulty? Originally, here is multi-crops. But by the colonization, they all change into the wheat production. But wheat production here cannot have a self-supply or something, means to satisfy the local people's needs. And also by the post-colonization, they got to change their production into these so-called cash crops for the world markets. Like Egypt, originally they can produce a lot of wheat, but later they produce a lot of cotton for the world markets, and then cotton occupied a number of the land, so the wheat production reduced. And then when the wheat increased, they cannot have a self-supply. So that is why many poor people go to the square. It's the square of liberalism, and then join the campaign. So in the end, there's social conflicts. Here is in China, that's because of these coastal areas, a lot of factory closed down. And then overseas demand largely decreased. So many people lay off. So there's also the conflicts happened. So this developing countries, the physical production, they take too much institutional cost from the overseas. And then when we have the crisis, we need to talk about how the Chinese governments facing the challenge of the crisis and how they adopted measures to deal with the crisis. And the first, we should know that the foreign capital invest into China, that is to make China have a large number of FDI, started from 2001, 2002, 2003. It's because of the high-tech bubble break in United States. Last lecture, I have given the explanation about this phenomena. I said it's the East Asian financial turmoil caused by the capital flow out of this East Asian industrialized country. When they need capital invested, they need capital investments, but capital flow out to follow the bubble of the IT industrialization in the United States. So IT absorbed large number of the capital from overseas, and then to make IT become a bubble. So from 1995 to 2001, these are 5 or 6 years, large number of the capital flow in, and then finally became a bubble and then break. That is 5 to 6 years. That is the reason of the East Asian financial turmoils. And then I said, when China have a large number of FDI, foreign direct investments, from the year 2001 to 2002, and not because of China access WTO, not because of the globalization, it's because the crisis happened in IT in the United States. To push this too much intensive capital in the IT industries out of the United States. Because the crisis, there's no benefits, no interest. So they got to flow out. Where is their interest? China. Because China has been, in last crisis, China started the infrastructure construction, mainly for infrastructure, mainly for highway, for airport, and for the fast speed trains and whatever. So all of this construction to give a very good base for absorb this foreign capital flow in. So that is why from the beginning of the 21st century, the first decades, large number of foreign capital flow in China. So and then they occupied a lot of benefit industries. So if you calculate these industries, you can have 30 main industrial streams or main industrial sectors. Two-thirds of the industries in China, mainly controlled by foreign capital. Means that more than 50%. Understand me? That means that, yeah, foreign capital investing into China for what? For take these benefits industries. When these benefit industries cannot benefit it, they will flow out. So it doesn't mean they will settle. No, when they can have the interest, they will be here, the foreign capital. When there's another country or another area have a more interest, they will flow to others. So, but in the first decades of the 21st century, China at that time is the top 1 country of FDI. Means that the FDI more like to invest into China. So that is the first we need to know that when the crisis happened, what is the background in China. So foreign capital flow into China, that is very important. And then to make China, coastal China, to be the big workshop for overseas needs, not for domestic needs. It's mainly for overseas demand. So then it's because of this, for overseas demand can have benefits. So make almost all the coastal China, originally only Guangdong, or a part of Fujian, southern Fujian, and southern Zhejiang, that is for overseas demand. But when this one, especially led by foreign capital, and then foreign capital much welcomed by the local governments, and then North Zhejiang and Jiangsu and Shandong and Liaoning, almost all the coastal China, taken by foreign capital. That is the situation. Maybe short term, you can have a benefit. And also the local governments enjoy the profit, their budget can be increased, and then they can consume too much, but it's short term. When the crisis happens, there will be another phenomenon. So that's one I said is to make the coastal China economy change the structure, not working for the local demand, but only for overseas demand. And then the other one I also have talked, that is no matter how many foreign capital flow in, immediately turn to the local money. I mean, against the foreign capital, Chinese issue the local currencies. So the local financial capital enlarged and then became a kind of independent power. It's also very interesting phenomena. And I hope all the audience here can pay attention to such kind of big number of the financial capital grow up in China. It's a very new phenomena. And large number of the liquidity flow into the private sectors. And the private sectors mainly use this big liquidity to invest into the speculation market. And then to make the stock market and the future markets and the real estate markets have a big wave, big change. It's cannot be settled. And then another thing is also very important. This one, the state-owned enterprises. I mean the state capital. You may say that's a state capitalist capital, but anyway, it's a capital controlled by state. Much enlarged, caused by large amount of the infrastructure construction investments. The infrastructure construction mainly carried out by state-owned enterprises, because private wouldn't like to carry out such kind of program because there's no short-term return. So the only big state-owned enterprises have to do it because that is the order from the central governments. And when they do it, they have a large amount of loan given by the state bank. So the state enterprises and state bank bonded together. So large number of the bank assets controlled by state enterprises. And then these are state enterprises invest into the big program, and let this airport and the trains and whatever, all the physical assets. These are assets. These are not short-term return. Maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. So it means that the bank assets now became long-term investments, cannot have short-term interest. So the bank the central bank give more liquidity. That is why the financial capital grew up, the number became larger and larger. So it means that, yes, you gain the game, you win the game when you're facing the challenge of the global crisis. I just gave the comparison. Yes, Western countries also need to adopt some measures. Chinese governments as an Oriental country also take some measures. They both take measures to deal with the crisis. One failed, another seems win the game, but also have a big cost, also have a big loss, but not being calculated. So that is why I said, no matter what kind of political regime, no matter what kind of ideology, what ism, what nations, remember, in the practical level, if you talk about practical issue, you need to do very careful analysis to know which measures you take, and then what is the outcome of such kind of measures. Maybe positive, maybe negative. Whatever you take as a return, whatever you need to pay as a cost. Nothing can be only have a return. You need to pay the cost. So that's one I need you understand. Okay, we can have a 10 minutes break. and then we go to next page.